Hi everyone, welcome to XAT 2021 test analysis by IMS. Let's have a look at what changed in the XAT test this year compared to last year and what did not change. Well, as far as the pattern was concerned, nothing really changed. The test was still of two parts, the main test for 165 minutes and GK for 15 minutes. Total 100 questions which also remained same. No negative marking for GK. So the test pattern did not change at all. Let's look at the number of questions which also did not change. Verbal and logical ability had 26 questions, where the number of marks per question is 1, and hence total mark was 26. The time frame which we have decided to, which you could have allotted was 55 to 60 minutes. And I would say good number of attempts would be anywhere between 14 to 15 attempts over here. Decision making, 21 questions. Same thing, three questions per set, and there were 7 passages. Total marks is 21. Again, 50 to 55 minutes would be a good amount of time allocated for this, and 12 to 13 questions were a good number of attempts. QA and DI, 28 questions, having 19 questions of QA, 9 questions of DI over 3 sets with 28 marks. Number of attempts would be 17 to 19. Like last year, QA was comparatively slightly easier than verbal and decision making both. Right? So total questions in the first part of the first section of the test was 75 questions and 75 marks. The second part of the test had 25 GK questions with 25 marks. Important thing, there was no negative marking, but still, when I say good attempts is 15, I don't mean that you have to attempt only 15. You should have attempted all 25 questions, definitely, because there is no negative marking. But 15 questions over here mean that these are the questions which you should have definitely thought of attempting, and chances were that you could have them right. The remaining 10 could have been just marked randomly. Let's go ahead now. So difficulty level on par with XAT 2019. As I said, nothing changed too much. So when people came out of XAT 2020, there was no major surprise, right? And similarly over here, we didn't find any surprise in the XAT 21. VARC and DM sections on par with XAT 2020. So these two sections I would say were very similar. Yes. So last year also VARC and DM, VARC was slightly difficult, DM was slightly confusing. Those remained same. But as I said, there was no major surprise in the test. Verbal and logical ability section. Let's talk about what happened in the test. Exactly how many questions of what type, where do we categorize them, medium, difficult, and so on. So there were 3 questions on grammar, 2 grammatically incorrect sentence, 1 grammatically correct sentence. All 3 were medium difficulty level. Fill in the blanks. There were 4 blanks, 1 question. We would put it at medium category. Jumbled paragraphs or parajumbles as you call them, 2 of them both medium difficulty level. Critical reasoning, 3, 2 medium, 1 difficult. Now this is one thing which, when you look at a XAT paper versus a CAT paper or any other exam paper, is that you hardly find any terms with easy. So in this whole sheet, if you look at this page, there's only one place where we're saying the test was easy, that is 2 easy questions on one of the passages. Rest all were either medium or difficult. So reading comprehension, passage 1, which was a passage on multitasking and distraction, where there were 3 questions, 2 of them were easy questions and 1 medium. Passage 2, a poem by Vikram Seth, both the questions were difficult. Passage 3, uncertainty of life, both the questions were again difficult. Passage 4, the importance of ability to process numbers in animals, 1 medium, 2 difficult questions. Passage 5, Microsoft and Windows Phone. This was maybe, a topic which a lot of students would have liked and hence would have attempted this. Luckily, both the questions were pretty medium level difficulty level. They were not very difficult at all. And realization of truth of life, 2 difficult questions. Gender data gap, 2 medium, 1 difficult. So overall, I would say that, there were 5, 7, 7 and 2, 9, around 10 difficult questions, 2 easy, and the balance were all medium questions. So obviously, getting those attempts which you wanted, which we discussed in the first page, should not have been too much of a problem if you've been able to attempt the medium level questions well. Good attempts, 14 to 15 questions. Time allocation, which we expected, should be around 55 to 60 minutes. So as we had discussed in the how to crack XAT session, you could have allocated 40 minutes for you to help you clear the cutoff, and then the last 15 minutes, depending on whether you want to maximize in this section compared to the other section and so on. Now, let's talk about the decision-making section. No quantitative data as per the last 2 years. So last 2 years, XAT has stopped asking any quantitative DM set. There is nothing with, where there is calculations and so on. 7 sets of 3 questions each. short and easy to read passages. The passages, see, now the important part over here, the passages are always easy, but there is always some ambiguity. Some questions have a fair deal of ambiguity. That's very, very important. That is what happens in XAT DM. Overall, the difficulty level could be considered as medium. The 7 passages, out of the 7 passages, 4 were of business decisions and 3 were ethical dilemma. Number of questions would be what, 5, 6 and 2, 8, 9 questions were medium, and the remaining 12 questions were difficult. So again, it's a medium to difficult level section, as I would call it. Only 9 medium level questions and 12 difficult level questions. So hence, clearing the cutoff should have been the primary target of yours in this test. Don't really worry. I always mention that you should not be really trying to maximize your score through DM. You should understand that you can clear the cutoff in DM. That should be good enough, and then you use the other section based on your strength to maximize your scores. Good attempts, 12 to 13 questions, time allocated 50 to 55 minutes. Coming to the QA/DI section, which from the last 2 years has been the kind of the most scoring section for XAT. Even though the difficulty level is being termed as medium, but still when you compare it maybe to the verbal difficulty level, it looks a little bit easy. Quantitative ability had 19 questions and 9 questions on DI over 3 sets. So that was same standard pattern which we had last year. 3 sets on DI with 3 questions each, and selections of question was key. And that is always in XAT, if you can select the questions correctly, which questions you want to attempt, getting the cutoffs clear is very, very simple. Now, let's talk about the breakup. As usual, as we've seen in a lot of tests this year and over the last couple of years, arithmetic and geometry played a major role. So out of 19 questions, there were 10 questions which were arithmetic and geometry included. So 5 questions arithmetic, 5 questions geometry. But the slightly difficult part this year was the 5 questions on geometry, 3 of them were difficult. But arithmetic made up for them. 3 easy and 2 medium level difficulty questions. I think actually all 5 could have been done definitely in arithmetic. Modern maths had 3 questions, 1 easy, 2 medium, not very difficult, I thought. Algebra was pretty straightforward, 2 straightforward algebra questions and 2 medium difficulty level algebra questions. Numbers, there was only a single question. In fact, the weightage of numbers in all tests has been going down. So only 1 question over here. And miscellaneous logic was 1 question, both were medium level, difficulty level. The DI sets, the 9 questions with 3 sets, there was 1 set with table with the 3 questions with medium difficulty level. The surprising part was the Venn diagram, and this is where a lot of students would have faltered. The Venn diagram set was slightly difficult, and hence you have to be very careful while taking up this set. And the scatter plot diagram was also pretty medium level, and I thought that you could have easily got these, total number of questions for medium were 13 and easy were 9. So if you look at that easy 9 questions, if you go back to the previous section, there were hardly 2 easy questions. And here there are 9 easy questions. So maximizing your score through quant becomes very, very important in XAT. So XAT is also becoming a test which basically will help students who are good at quant. That is how XAT also is becoming as a test. Because obviously there are 2 sections, that is verbal and DM. Both are actually sections which favor students with higher verbal logic. QA/DI, the good number of attempts would be 17 to 19 questions. If you want to maximize, you could have gone ahead also. Time allocation is close to 60 minutes. Predicted cutoffs. Now, this is the page which most of you all were waiting for. Predicted cutoffs. Now, if I look at the XLRI BM program, right? You know that there's a slight difference between the cutoffs for male and females. VARC for males is 3 to 3.5, DM is 6 to 6.5. And the QA/DI section is 8 to 9, but the overall cutoff is 30 to 31. Now understand, all tests which have low sectional cutoffs have always, there is a slight gap between for the overall cutoff, and the same thing you will notice at IFT also. So all students are thinking of IFT, the same thing will happen. You will have to manage your cutoffs of each section, but there is one particular section where you'll have to do really well to clear the overall cutoff. So to get a 30-31 over here, if you were say just managing verbal and DM, so if you are managing verbal and DM, you're looking at a score of 10. Then you need to score 21 in quant, or you just kind of reach a 6 or something in verbal, 8, 9 in DM, and slightly lower score than in QA/DI. But normally that is what I've seen, that people manage their DM section, do well at either verbal or quant based on their strength. Female candidates, the cutoffs for sectional cutoffs fall by 0.5 approximately, and in QADI by 1, the overall cutoff falls by approximately 2 to 3 marks. Now, XLRI HRM program, if you look at the cutoff for the VARC section, it is higher than the BM section. That is the only place the cutoff goes higher, right? For the verbal section, for the HM program is higher. Everywhere else, the cutoffs are lower than the cutoffs which we had discussed for BM program by approximately a mark each. And hence, the overall cutoff also is fallen by approximately 2 to 3 marks. So, the difference between a overall cutoff for BM and HR is not very high. I would say 2 or maybe even 3 to 4 marks. I would just stick my neck out and say that it could go to 3 to 4 marks also. Let's talk about the part 2, the GK section. GK section had 25 GK questions, right? 15 current affair questions, out of which 15 were current and 10 were static GK. Now, compared to last year, if I compare this to last year, the GK part was slightly more difficult. Okay, but I also believe you'll have a lot more time this year to sit at home and study. So you should have got that part. No negative marking in this section, obviously, and hence you should have attempted all questions. That is the main thing, right? 15 questions seriously attempted with a good score of 6 to 7 should be good enough in the GK section because it was slightly difficult than last year. Now, GK scores are not used for computing your percentiles. So hence for getting your calls, you really don't need a GK score. The GK scores are always there during the interview round with the panelists, and they may or may not ask you something about it or give you some weightage over it. Very frankly, they've never disclosed what they do with the GK scores. So I would say a score of 6 to 7 should be comfortable, and you should not be really too worried if you've been scoring that. Well, that is all about the XAT 2021 according to us, and I hope you're clear. I think the important sheet for you should be the sheet where the cutoff is being spoken about. Any more queries, I'll be happy to answer them in the comment section. Thank you.